Asian Boss Girl is brought to you by Anchor, an easy way to make your podcast and get it out into the world. It's free, has creation tools that allow you to record and edit right from your phone or computer, and will distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and many more. You can also make money from your podcast on Anchor with no minimum listenership. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. Welcome to ABG, Asian Boss Girl, a podcast for the modern-day Asian American woman. I'm Janet.
I'm Mel.
I'm Helen.
I'm Philip.
And I'm Tim.
Today we have invited two very special ABB guests to explore just how different or similar ABGs and ABBs really are. In episode 58, we had two ABBs in their 20s on this podcast to have an open forum discussion with us. Today, we are upping the average age in this room with two ABBs in their 30s. This will be an open forum and a safe space to ask each other any and all questions.
All right, so let's start with introductions. We have Phil and Tim. So why don't you share with our audience, where you're from, where you currently live, your age, occupation, zodiac sign, and the relationship with us.
So my name is Philip Wang. I'm Helen's fiance. I'm also a co-founder of Wong Fu Productions. I grew up in the Bay Area. Went to school at UC San Diego, now live in LA. I own a boba shop. Oh, I'm a Scorpio.
What are those?
A proud Scorpio.
My name is Tim Huang. I am 37. I grew up in the SF Bay Area, actually with Phil, but I also live there now, working as a pharmaceutical marketing executive. My zodiac sign is I'm a Sagittarius.
Woo woo, Sagittarius.
There you go.
That's me.
And I actually know ABG in many different ways. I actually met Janet in college. Phil and I went to college together. And so over time, I also met Mel and Helen.
Well, no, Tim, we're more than just college friends.
We are childhood friends from very, very early on in the Bay Area.
Also, Philip, Tim, and Janet danced together on the same dance team in college. Which is kind of crazy.
That is crazy. That was like over 10 years ago. Not to age us, but...
If I can make a technicality here, technically, Janet wasn't on the team at the same time as me and Tim.
That's
No,
right.
I was on the same time as you.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
But not Tim.
if this was a Venn diagram, I am the space in the middle.
But
That's true.
the story that I heard was that Janet was so good that she left for a better team.
Let's not get into this.
That is possibly true.
Let's not get into this.
I actually
Oh,
remember
drama.
being a judge when Janet was trying out for our dance team.
Wow.
Oh, that's right.
She was this very quiet, kind of nerdy looking girl who wore a Ralph Wiggum t-shirt.
I did.
Ralph Wiggum from The Simpsons.
From The Simpsons.
She had this t-shirt on with just Ralph Wiggum on it, and I was like, okay.
No, it's a dance.
This
That's what I
girl-
wore for a dance audition.
This girl was definitely not making the team. And then once we started getting to like the hardcore hip hop moves, like she killed it. So
Ooh, great story. Where's the t-shirt, Janet?
I don't know anymore. It's such a long time ago. But yes, so we all know each other at some capacity for many years now. We're connected through personal relationships, but we also hang out together socially, and I've taken trips together. And today, we're going to be asking each other some very interesting questions. So how this is going to go is we're going to cover a variety of topics, everything from lifestyle, career, dating, and any other topics. And we'll start each section with the ladies asking the men a few questions on a topic. And then we're going to flip the mic and then have the guys ask the ladies some questions.
I mean, everyone has mics, but yes.
Yeah. Everyone's going to flip their mics.
I listened to the one that was of the 20-year-old guys with
Yes.
Mike and Jason, and God, those guys were idiots. I'm
Wait,
just
you think you're a lot more mature than them?
so much
I
more
don't think
mature.
this is the grown-up
Starting
version.
some
This
competition
is the adult
here.
table, okay?
I like it. Okay.
I'm just kidding, Mike and Jason.
Today, we are going to be asking questions mostly related to lifestyle and career. So, Philip and Tim, when you were in your early 20s, how did you envision your 30s to be? And what is it really like?
As a cis male, I think I definitely thought by 30 I would have children and be married already. I think actually I remember in college totally buying into that one thing that a lot of people said, which is 70% of people meet the love of their life in college. You remember when people said that, and or meet their future wife, and I totally thought that that was what was supposed to happen. So I was freaking out like by senior year. Yeah, that obviously didn't happen. I think like, whenever you're younger, you all see like the next stage is like super, super old. So I definitely thought that 30 was like super grown up. It's kind of crazy to think how much is still up in the air. But I think in contrast, we are grown up. Sometimes I do have to zoom out and see like, oh no, like I'm definitely not at the same place as like, someone that just graduated or someone in their early 20s. I think working at the cafe and being around people that age very often constantly reminds me of just how much more responsibility I have compared to then.
Yeah. I mean, I think Phil and I grew up in the same kind of general suburb life. So I think for me, I thought about, in my 30s, I'd be living in a cul-de-sac and would have a family and hopefully have a career that I enjoy doing, but also feel more confident in what that career is, right? And I think as you get older, you start to put those pieces together, but you also figure out when you want to pivot. And as you pivot, you know that, okay, as I'm getting closer to my 30s, maybe I might need some more time to kind of achieve those dreams or achieve those goals. So that's how I kind of think a little bit about.
I never really thought about my career. I know that sounds terrible, but it's like, I think because of Wong Fu, it was just, we were just thrown in the deep end. There was no roadmap. There was no plan. So like, I never knew if I was on track or not, which I guess in some ways you could say is a blessing in disguise, because that means that like, you have no one to compare to. But on the negative side is like, you have no one to compare to.
Yeah.
Right. So you never know if you're doing things right. So yeah, still to this day, I'm like, did I do everything right? I don't know. I do think like the structure might have been nice, but yeah, I didn't get that experience.
Philip's never written a resume before or had a real formal interview.
I interviewed
with
at
like NPR. But like
I interviewed for Target. I interviewed for Tapioca Express.
That's true.
To push carts and make boba, but still. I still had to interview.
Well, I'm curious about what your core values were like maybe the top 2 or 3 back in your 20s and how that compares to your core values now, present day. Have those shifted, or do you think they're basically about the same?
Yeah, I mean, I think there are some things definitely that stayed the same. And I think that is a combination of your upbringing, which sticks with you, but also maybe some things you kind of like go through in college, right? So for me, friendships and my community were always big. And regardless of where my 20s took me, I never lost sight of that. I think one of the biggest things that changed for me was maybe how I think about actually money. I think in your 20s, your career starting off, you think about where do you want to spend your money. Maybe it's supporting your family. Maybe it's buying nice things. Maybe there's a certain level of living and lifestyle you want to have. Over time, for me, actually, experiences became a big thing. So saving money for travel or, planning things with my friends ahead of time and saving almost like together for those goals. Those, to me, were more important than like material objects, right? So you still want to be, of course, passionate about your career and be able to make money, but the end goal of how you spend your money may change. So that was maybe something that was different for me.
I think like my true north has been pretty much the same in terms of who I am, but I definitely will say like, yeah, I think there are phases in your 20s that I definitely went through where you are trying to still fit in. You're trying to seem like you are more established than you are. I will say that maybe, my perception of like love has obviously changed a lot in terms of what true love or what you're aspiring to have in a relationship has changed a lot. I think when I was younger, it was more about like, how does this person make me happy? How is this person, what is this person adding to my life? Versus, I think when you get older and you've had more experiences, I've learned to start to think, how am I, being a better person for my partner, I guess. I
do want to mention one thing actually I just thought of, which is I think from my 20s to my 30s, my sense of pride in my heritage and culture definitely evolved. And I think that comes with, learning more about your family, learning more about even just people who are like you. And I think everyone then decides how much do they want to invest in searching into that and doing more for their culture. I even think about growing up with Phil. I think we were very aware that we were Asian American, but the amount of, contribution to our Asian community probably grew with time.
Yeah, I think when you're younger, like you know you're what you are, maybe you're different or what makes you unique, but I think as you get older, you start to see how your identity affects all other parts of your life, and so you want to try to be more purposeful with I guess how you treat your identity, how you pass on or learn or share that identity with other people. So yeah, that's a good point. I think even with Wong Fu, like when we first started, like being Asian was obviously a huge part of our channel, but like we didn't think it was so important to make it a major
like there was less intent behind it or purpose.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And then, clearly now it's like, oh, we have a lot more of that purpose for it.
I think when I think of lifestyle in your 20s, maybe I'm still in my 20s. I see my guy friends. I think like even the way you socially
You're barely
interact.
in your 20s, by the way, but okay, go ahead.
I said the tip. You do know I'm almost 30 next year.
Yes,
but
exactly.
I think even the way you celebrate or hang out with your friends, like socially, like going to Vegas. I think the other night we were all talking about how you and Janet went to Vegas 10 years ago, but the way you celebrated was very different. So socially within your friend groups, what's changed?
I want to say that like the way we party is like, I don't know if we're the best examples of this, because I'm sure there's many other men that are in their 30s or even 20s that are already settled down and have children, so I acknowledge that this is not everyone, but I still feel like not much has changed. I feel like everyone goes through this phase in their mid-20s where they're like, oh, I'm retired, I'm not partying anymore, I'm over it. And then like they do that for maybe like a year or two, and then they realize, oh, I'm still in my 20s. I miss going out. And then they have this resurfacing of like wanting to go out, or they like start making money and they're like, okay, now I can actually have a good time. Like now I want to go out, right? So for me, like I feel like going out and socializing has been pretty consistent throughout the last 10 years into my 30s. And if anything, now it's like kind of better, because now we know what we like, and you'll seek out, like you said, those experiences.
I mean, I think, when you make friends in college or shortly after college, you're starting from a very similar point. And so your world of experiences are actually very similar. And then as you move to different cities or start different careers or make other new friends,
meet new people,
you almost create new components of who you are. And if you then go back to those friends who you've stayed close with, you can influence each other of what are those things that you want to like enrich each other with, right? So like let's say Phil plans a trip, that I would have never thought about. Because he's my friend, I might be more willing to experiment and do that, right? I think that kind of changes just how big your world is.
And on the flip side, you also see which friends like you actually don't vibe with anymore, or like, oh, we were friends during a period of time when we matched because of our situation or, external factors or whatever. And then now when we have a choice of who we want to hang out with and what type of people we want to hang out with, then you do start to have less patience for putting up is the wrong word, but going out with people that you're actually not that close to or that you don't vibe with, or spending time, or like if you have a new interest or new hobby, it's like, yeah, I think I'd rather go build trains than go drink with, my high school friend or college friend. And that's totally fair. I think that's what happens. And in our 30s, I think that's why like the friends that you get in your 30s, I think are more fine-tuned to what you like.
Yeah, definitely.
People have this perception that by your 30s, you have your shit together, right? So it's like you guys said that you imagine when you're in your 20s that the 30s, you're going to be this adult, you have the big house, you have the fancy cars. Do you think that this perception is true?
I think what I'm realizing is just as you get older, even though you have figured out what you thought was a mystery in your 20s, there's still new things like that are being uncovered that you don't know. So while I would say that compared to, yes, myself in my 20s, I have my shit together. But then when I think about like being 30 and realizing what I have to do next, I don't have that shit together at all, right? So that's a good part of growing up, where your perspective of life and of the world definitely broadens, and you realize how big of a picture we're part of. And I think when you're younger, you're like, I just got to do this thing, and this is the most important thing right now, and if I don't do this, then it's the end of the world. And it's like, universe willing, you will have time to figure it out.
I think as a follow-up question to that, though, it's like, do you then feel like there's always a moving target, where when you were 20, you were like, okay, once I get here, I'm going to be happy. And then now that you're here, it's like, okay, well, I think by the time I'm 40, I have it's completely different expectations from what my life is now.
I think that might be personality based. I think some people can attain something that they thought that they wanted to get and just be content with that. And I think that there's some people that are like, once they get it, they will never be satisfied,
Oh, God.
Yeah, I think there's a sense of like self-satisfaction, right, that you develop in your 30s where this is enough for me, maybe in this category of life. And to Phil's point, I definitely think there are different personalities where some people will never be satisfied, and that will drive them to make certain decisions. Whereas other people, I don't want to say they're simple. I think they're just very focused. And they know that if I can kind of keep certain things in my life at a certain level, I'm very happy. I think it all does end up adding into what ultimately their lifestyle is like. But that then plays into how you prioritize the things that you chase. So that moving target versus I'm comfortable with where I am, and this could keep me happy for the next 50, 60 years.
Is this different from what the 20-year-olds are saying? Like, I can't tell. Like, is this...
I mean, a 20-year-old, we started off with like, do you shave or something like that?
It's more like, you know.
I think we have a lot of listeners. Our demographic is between like mid-20s and early 30s. So this is a lot of good information for people who are in their 20s, because I think during that period of time, you are also in a time of like transition with like relationship and career and going from college to like really deep into your career. So a lot of people are just in this gray zone. So it's good to hear,
I think maybe
older
because
people's perspectives.
I think maybe because we've been in our 30s I've been here now for 5 years, you've been here for 7 years, like it does feel like, oh yeah, this is just normal. This is everyone knows this. But then I mean, just a couple days ago, someone at the cafe came in and was like, I mean, they're a fan, but they're like, I just graduated and like, I don't know what, can you give me some advice? And I'm like, chill out, you're fine. Like you got time, like just keep moving, stay productive,
So if you had to select a theme for your 20s versus your 30s, what would it be?
Like what's like a mantra?
I would say in my 20s, it was more about chasing romance.
Aww.
But my 30s is probably more about chasing life experiences. So it's not so much that you have to give up one or the other. It's more that theme came out more in my 20s versus my 30s.
Interesting. It's your focus more, priority.
I would say the 20s is, for me, was like, prove yourself, be worthy, be enough so that people like you, right? And 30s is, I'm cool. Like, I'm gonna sell boba. No, I think 30s now is actually like, it's in some ways more intense in that way, but like less detrimental, if that makes sense. I feel like 20s is like, I need to do all these things to prove myself, but I don't really know how, like, why doesn't this all make sense? And like now 30s is like, oh, I know what I need to do to accomplish those things. It seems more clear, I guess, rather than hectic, as I'm trying to...
You're more focused?
Yeah, more focused.
So would you say you're still chasing to be valued in your 30s or no?
So I think the chasing validation in the 20s was because I felt that like I was lacking something. And I think now I have the confidence where like, I know I'm not lacking anything. So the things that I'm chasing for validation is just to, either make an impact or earn money or achieve some kind of goal. It's less from an insecure place.
Yeah.
All right, the next question, how has partying changed for you in your 20s and now in your 30s?
Oof.
I saw some photos from your 10 years ago, and I was like, it looks
I still think we party pretty hard now.
Yeah, I kind of agree.
Really?
Okay, Mel has a presumption before she asks this question.
No, it's because obviously because lately the past few years we've been more like, oh, we're chill, or we're going to someone's apartment and we're drinking, versus I think before I saw your photos like bottle service maybe, or like going out to clubs and stuff more. So it has changed.
That's true.
So in my 20s, I definitely love going out and dancing.
Tim was a party promoter.
Whoa.
Tim,
I was an event planner, okay? An event planner. But yeah, so in my 20s, I definitely love dancing. In my 30s, I still like dancing, but it's more about getting your friends together, getting some good drinks, going to a place you've never been to, less about, actually going to like a club or a lounge for dancing.
I think also like the nightlife culture was different like 10 years ago at this point too, right? Like clubbing is not the same as it is.
But
now.
for us though, I think
That's
clubbing
the
is
thing.
still a big thing. Yeah.
I think when in my mid 20s, I liked going out because you wanted to be wild. You wanted to have like, who knows what could happen tonight, and you were okay with like, oh, who are we gonna meet or where are we gonna end up? And I think now, definitely in my 30s, I'm like, I still want to have the extreme fun, but I also want to be responsible. Like, I want to know where we're going.
Yeah.
I don't want any surprises. If there's like some strange woman, I'm gonna question, where have you been? What are your intentions here? Whereas like I think like when you're in your 20s, you're like, oh shit, there's this hot girl that's over there.
Huh, good answer, Philip. Good answer.
That's a good point. I think in my 20s, I always wanted to meet new people every time I went out. In my 30s, it's a little bit different. If I happen to meet someone, that's great. But it's not really the goal of me actually going out each time.
Right. Yeah. I will say that I think for me, like, I feel like I've always been like the shot pourer, the pre-gamer, where I'm like, everyone take these shots before we leave.
I mean, you has that changed?
No, the thing is that hasn't changed, but I will say the response from people has changed. Yeah. People are like, oh no, I think this shot's gonna like throw me, I can't do this one. I'm just like, excuse me?
And I think that response comes from people having more confidence and self-awareness too. I think when you're in your 20s, you're like, oh, I want to show I can hang. I'm trying to impress a girl. I'm trying to impress a guy.
You can't say no. It's not as easy to say no.
Now it's very easy to be like, nah, dude.
Yeah. I have nothing to prove now. You know?
Yeah, I have nothing to, exactly. And I would also say too, like, I mean, social norms, gender norms aside, like, I think guys definitely do feel like they have to like buy drinks. So like when you're in your when you're in your 20s, that pressure to have to do that, it feels very strong to show that you're a baller or that that you can spend the money. I'm in a relationship now, so I don't get the opportunity. Not get the opportunity. I don't have the obligation to have to flex that way. But like, do you feel that you still have to show that to women in your 30s? I better buy this drink.
I would say it's not that I have to. It's more that now I have the means to, so I feel more comfortable doing it.
Okay.
Versus in my younger years, like, oof, this is really stretching my budget. I mean, I really hope this person ends up hanging out with me. And I will say, when a woman offers to buy the drinks, it is really nice because it does kind of go against what you typically expect in terms of the social norm at a bar.
It shows that she's confident too.
Yes.
And she's also in a probably like a decent job. Yeah.
There's like a mutual appreciation, right? We're both investing in each other to have a good time.
I definitely do remember like when you're younger in your 20s and you get that bill back for the drinks, you want to like not react to it. You're just like, all right, I know what I'm getting myself into, so I'm just gonna act cool about this. All right, yeah, $14 a shot. Yep, that's fine. That's totally fine.
The worst part is when they actually charge you for the chaser and you're like, oh my gosh, why did I pay $4 for this little cup of Coke?
Yeah. I've gotten really good at chasing with just a sip so we can share. All I need is just a little bit of a taste of something else. What about for you, ladies?
I definitely remember in my early 20s, like, quote unquote, hustling more for drinks. It was like kind of like,
girl, you still trying to do that?
I don't do that anymore. I don't intentionally do that.
Wait, sorry. Can you explain what you would do?
Honestly, it used to be like a challenge for me because they used to call me Ping Pong Mel.
Oh my god! I did not know this.
What is this? My college friends know this. Like, I used to just for fun. Like, I like talking to guys too. So when I was younger, I would eye people. I mean, I still do that, but like I would try to talk to them and get a free drink and get a number.
Oh god!
Wait, why?
You're one of those.
Because they're nice. When I drink too much, I would literally bounce from guy to guy to guy.
But the first thing I thought about was like Bangkok. Ping pong.
Oh no!
Oh my gosh!
I don't do that. Anyways, but yeah, so I used to be more like, it was like a game. I'm not gonna lie, it was a game when I was like 21, 22. But then I think as I moved towards my mid 20s, I didn't want to I cared more about spending time with my friends going out and cared less about meeting people.
You know what it's like? I feel like with as girls become the age of drinking, they realize that they have this superpower. They're like, wait, I can get this if I act a certain way. And obviously, like, whether we support it or not is a different topic, but it's like I do think if I was a young girl and I realized that I could get free stuff, like it would probably
be fun.
It could be fun.
I actually have the opposite. I have like no game with that, and I would always go out and I'm like, I'm just gonna buy my own drinks. I don't know. I was so like, yeah, because I had a lot of girlfriends that would go out, and like that is a thing in your young 20s, right? It's like fun to go out and you want to meet people.
Yeah,
and I think it's also guys play into it too. Guys accept it. I mean, we joke about complaining about it, but we also know that's part of the game, I guess.
Yeah, actually, that's a good point. There is a bit of a power dynamic there. Sometimes I wouldn't let a man buy me a drink if I didn't like him.
Oh, of course.
Because then it's like he's expecting something. Yeah. It's an exchange, right?
Yeah, I was very selective of who I chose. I was actually.
I don't know. When you say ping pong, it sounds like how ping pongs work. They just go wherever.
Here's the thing. This is
I lost ping pong ball under the couch. Like, where'd it all go?
Well, this was obviously like a made up name by my friends versus I didn't get that name to myself. But like, I also was trying to find a match.
Yeah.
Multiple times a night, but like sometimes they just weren't interested. I had the conversation. I'm like, oh, I didn't like this. Yeah. I'm fair. I'm not like, bye, bitch.
Yeah.
Anyways, how about you, Helen?
Well, I'm like trying to think about like back in my 20s, I feel like it's been consistent. I feel like I've been pretty consistent with how I drink. I probably drink a little bit less now because I know how much alcohol I can take and what types of alcohol and all of that. But I feel like I've always had a boyfriend since college. So if anything, it was like the upperclassmen taught me to buy drinks for like my friends, and like, you know, so that is, I feel like, something that I still do nowadays. Like, okay, let's go to the bar, let's go get a drink, let's go do that. And I don't wait for a guy to buy me a drink. I think I'm like Janet. Oh, yeah. It's more like I want to at least start the night with like, I'll buy my own drink. And then if anyone were to come up to me, I don't think I was ever like trying to eye fuck people. But like if, you know, they happen to like brush by me, then I'll just like, oh, okay. And then, you know, that might happen. But
yeah. It sucks because I think in like club bar culture, like it's just like a space filler. Like you meet, like, let's say you're not at the bar and you just meet someone here, you're gonna say, oh, you want to go grab a drink. It's just the first activity. You're not gonna be like, hey, you want to play rock paper scissors? You know, it's
You know? You know what also I think changed? I don't know about you guys, but when I'm in my younger 20s, I think I was more like, maybe I'll just buy myself a drink or maybe a few friends. But now it's like, and now that we make more money, or in your late 20s, 30s, like, oh, I'll buy a round for more people. It's like more generous, I guess. Because financially,
I actually never got into the round buying because like sometimes you lose track of that shit and you're like, hey, the rounds only went like 3 people in. Yeah. Where are the other 7?
I think I started realizing that more in my 30s too, because I think I was always like let's get 10, and I just see the bill and like, oh, that's okay. You know, you kind of like just sign off on it.
Because
like,
10
that's
people means that
it's over $100.
Oh no, I'm like 10 people means that you're gonna take 10 shots to make the full round around the group, right? But most people can't make it that far, so whoever's number 10.
That's true. That's very true. I did notice that too, because usually like the thing is there would always be someone second, third, fourth, fifth, and we just have a fun night because everyone's drinking then, right? But you're right. 8, 9, 10 was always the same people.
Guilty.
We know.
I try to get like 1 or 2. Like, no, actually, I'm the second round. I don't do the first round.
I feel like I actually, in my 20s, I went out a lot with just like 1 or 2 other girls. So I did small, because the goal is to go out and try to meet people. And then it's easier to meet a group of guys when you're a small group of girls. But then I think later in my 30s then, or like late 20s, early 30s, I would go out dancing to dance, and I would go with friends. So you're not going to meet people. I'm there to like have a good time with friends.
I will say that now that we're older and we thankfully, you know, do earn more money, it like you splurge a little bit on the table, the bottle service, or like getting in quicker. And part of it is also age too. It's like, I want a place to sit.
That's so true.
Things are too crowded on the dance floor. I would like to sit down.
My old knees can't take this.
I don't want to get trampled for an hour.
Well, what was your favorite drink when you were in your 20s compared to your 30s now? Alcoholic drink.
I would probably say, and I'm not saying I don't like it anymore, but maybe like a whiskey Coke. In my 30s, I'm all about the dirty gin martini.
What?
I think it's a great, you know, sipper drink. It has like a really strong but good alcohol taste. So that's probably my evolution of drink choice.
Oh.
You never went through a beer phase?
I never really liked beer. I like beer, you know, with like maybe on a hot summer day. Yeah. But it was never my go-to.
I would say in my 20s, definitely like a lot more. I mean, it hasn't changed that much, but like I think when I first discovered like Hennessy and pineapple, I thought that was like the most amazing thing. When I first discovered like ginger beer or ginger ale with like Jameson or whiskey, like I thought that was amazing. Yeah. I remember when I first experienced picklebacks.
Oh, so good.
Like I really loved that. So all those things, I think like in your 20s, you just kind of like keep a catalog of like what you enjoy, and then it's continued. I will say, like, as you get older, you feel pressure to be like, oh yeah, I like whiskey neat, you know, like, and there's a moment for everything. These days though, like now because of health, I definitely will watch how much like beer I drink. I'll try not to do too many mixed drinks, like the sodas and stuff, and I'll just drink the straight alcohol, shots only. Get the job done with the least amount of calories and carbs, you know. What about y'all?
I remember in my 20s when I found my drink and I would order, I'm like, okay, I get a Jameson and ginger. Like I felt confident knowing that I know what to order now versus like, I'll get the AMF. Like, you know, when you're younger in your 20s.
Oh, yeah.
Right? You didn't know the hell you're drinking.
Jaeger bombs. I remember that was a really common drink to get.
It is so, for sure. But I still like dark liquor. I don't know if it's just our group, but we still do shots in our I'm about to end in my 30s, but we still do shots, and I feel like a lot of my other friends probably don't do shots. I don't know if that's just a thing, or
Maybe we're doing less shots though?
we're doing less shots for. I mean, Helen's like nodding along, like yes, as a drinker.
Drink pourer.
Drink pour.
I'm a poor drinker.
No, I feel like you mentioned earlier, like we don't drink as much as we used to.
Yeah. I think my first like drink of choice was influenced by my sister. She used to be like, Helen, we only drink Patron. Okay, and I was like, okay. So I would always drink Patron. And then I don't like tequila as much anymore. But I think my go-to was like the typical cranberry vodka. Just so like when you approach the bar, you know what to say. Like that was all. I didn't love it, but it was like this is like a, you expect me to get this drink, so I'm gonna get this drink kind of a thing. But now I feel like we get a lot of Jameson shots. Hennessy and pineapple. I had a long streak of Hennessy and pineapple because my dad likes Hennessy, so I was like, Hennessy, and the pineapple is amazing. But now it's like Jameson. It's I do like a vodka water with extra lemon for the same reason of like, you know, it doesn't taste bad. It tastes actually pretty good, and like less sugar and things like that. What was yours, Shannon?
I would say probably similar to Phil. I feel like I went through evolutions where I just drank what was like, you know, what was popular or what my friends would order. So I definitely went through a Patron phase, and then there was the Grey Goose phase.
We're currently in the White Claw phase.
I'm currently in the trying to not get a hangover phase, which is like everything gives me a hangover nowadays.
Same.
Right? Yeah. I probably did a lot more shots when I was in my 20s, I would say. And then probably for mixed drinks, also just like vodka, whatever, like soda or anything. Nowadays,
Tequila.
I do, yeah. I think the one thing that's evolved as I've gotten, like, I'm still not someone who's like a refined, like I like this type of cocktail or whatever. I love wine. I drink, like, red wine is my thing, but I'm not going to really order that if I go out to a club. So if it's like I'm getting like a liquor type drink, I will usually do the vodka, water, lemon for health reasons, or a tequila. Tequila is actually one that I've discovered of the liquors I like to drink. But my issue is that like it's hard to find a good mixed drink that's like healthy-ish, you know, because you can have it in a margarita. But that's like if you go more like a daytime drink by the pool.
How's tequila and water?
It's not good. I've tried it.
Okay. I would not recommend it.
I actually love tequila and soda water.
Tequila soda.
Oh, really? Okay,
Yeah.
maybe it's the soda water. But just like flat water, I was like, oh my God. This is just like straight up drinking, like rubbing alcohol. So
I think everyone in their 20s should try tequila, have a breakup with tequila, and then as they get older, find a new, better tequila and like
that's true. Quality.
re-amend the relationship.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of reasons why young people don't like tequila is because they always have it last. And you're already drunk. And like tequila is like, people are always like, oh, tequila is the craziest. And so when people are drunk, they're like, let's do tequila shots. And of course, tequila is going to push you way over
the edge.
And so you're conditioning yourself to like think, oh, tequila is really bad.
Does it have higher alcohol content?
No, I think it doesn't. It's just, I think,
The idea, right?
it's just like the last, it's usually people's like last thing that they do.
But then at that point, you don't know what you're drinking.
No, I feel like people like love saying let's do tequila like as like the wildest thing.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I agree. I think tequila has that like party shot, you know, reputation.
Yeah.
But as you get older and you actually try tequila again, that's like the part that's important to like erase those bad memories
Right.
and be like, okay, this is not so bad.
Yeah.
Like you're not really shooting it out of a plastic bottle from the 7-Eleven. You are having it in a cocktail, right?
Yeah.
You pick the one with the scorpion on the bottom.
Always a winner.
I was actually thinking like, were we talking about like these days when we go, I actually don't like buying drinks at the bar because I know how much things cost. And I'm like, this is a really bad deal.
I would rather pay for a nice cocktail versus, and at that point you're not going to a club, right? It's like you go to a bar thing.
We do pregame really hard because we know how much it's going to cost at the club.
Yeah.
It's funny, like even
It's
though we have
economical.
more money now,
Yeah.
we actually now we want to
We're
save
smarter.
it.
We're smarter.
Yeah.
We're more frugal.
Skillshare is a sponsor of today's episode of Asian Boss Girl. As we adjust to this new normal, all three of us are trying to shake up our routine by discovering new activities to do around the house. It can be overwhelming to figure out where to start, but Skillshare is here to help. Skillshare is an online learning community that offers membership with meaning. Take this time to explore new skills, deepen existing passions, and get lost in creativity with classes from Skillshare.
I've always enjoyed cooking and spending time in the kitchen. However, I tend to stick with my usual dishes and recipes. As I was scrolling through Skillshare, I thought I'd try something new and give baking a shot. I was excited to try classes like how to make authentic Parisian traditional chocolate croissants and know your dough. It was so much fun, I got to share my goodies with the ladies.
Skillshare is also incredibly affordable, especially when compared to pricey in-person classes and workshops. An annual subscription is less than $10 a month. Explore your creativity at Skillshare.com/ABG and get 2 free months of premium membership. That's right, Skillshare is offering Asian Boss Girl listeners 2 free months of unlimited access to thousands of classes. Head to Skillshare.com/ABG.
Hi, ABGs and ABBs. If you've ordered merch from us at AsianBossGirl.com/shop, ShipStation has been the service that helps us get our tees shipped to you. When you're selling online, getting a lot of orders out fast can be tough. How do you keep track of who gets what? Which shipping carrier should you use? Are you getting the best rates?
ShipStation has been an easy and affordable way for us to manage and ship out all of our orders. They help online sellers of any size get orders out quickly, save money on shipping costs, and keep customers happy. No matter if you're selling on Amazon, Etsy, or your own website, ShipStation brings all your orders into one simple interface and works with all the major carriers, including USPS, FedEx, UPS, and even Amazon Fulfillment.
Right now, Asian Boss Girl listeners can try ShipStation free for 60 days when you use offer code ABG. Make sure your business is ready to meet the demands of delivery culture. Get started at ShipStation.com today. Click on the microphone at the top of the ShipStation homepage and type in ABG. That's ShipStation.com, then enter offer code ABG. ShipStation.com, make ship happen.
All right, let's talk about your domestication. In your 20s, was it important for you to keep a clean house? Like, did you do your laundry? Did you like to decorate? And has that changed at all now that you're in your 30s?
Sorry. I remember going to Phil's place and he was like, oh, I got that. I was like, oh, some sticks in a pot? He's like, I bought this as He's like, I bought this as decoration. I was like, oh, okay.
It was at IKEA. You know, so I was like, people buy this. If it's a product, that means people are buying it to decorate their home, so I'm going to buy it, and therefore my home is decorated.
But yeah, it's very different than in your 20s when it's like any item in your home was like essential and furniture. It wasn't decor, right?
Oh man, yeah, like I got through all of my 20s with the what's it called, the mattress spring. No. What do you call it? The box spring. The box spring is like your bed frame. I always saw people that had like the nice bed frames with posts and everything. I'm like, what's the point of that?
That's true.
Like you're asleep when you're not enjoying it while you're asleep. But I would only have the metal bars at the bottom and the wheels, and that was it. And I was fine with that.
I actually have thought about that for like kids, because my sister has a pretty high bed and their kids have fallen off a number of times. Yeah. And it's just like, I think it makes sense to have like a low bed.
Even our bed now is low. But at least it's a bed, but like a bed frame.
How about for you, Tim?
I want to say I'm not a neat freak, but I definitely want things to have a spot. You know what I mean?
I remember going to your place like, yeah, your room wasn't clean.
I mean, don't come over unannounced. I will say I never really cared too much about decor, but it's probably more of a function of the place not feeling like it was mine or it was shared or maybe too small that it was worth doing. There wasn't really a way to add my own touch. So you know what? Why bother?
When I finally moved into my own place, that's when I started to care. That's true. Because you have no one else to blame if it's dirty. It's like those are definitely my dishes. That's definitely, my socks, and everything. So I think like when I was just graduated, mid-20s, all I had was my room. And like I cared about my room for sure. Like I wanted that to look like, cool and fun or whatever. But like outside of that, living room was just one couch, a beanbag maybe, like, and then like the dining table, like who needs a dining table? You're eating in your room probably.
That's actually very true.
I will admit, I always had this one chair that would become the laundry chair.
I think everyone has that.
Where basically the clothes wouldn't be dirty. And I would look at it and say, it's okay. It's fine.
Yeah. No, we have that too in our bathroom where it's like, you can rewear this again. It's not that dirty. So just fold it and put it there.
It's so funny. I literally just bought a chair so I could have that chair.
Oh my gosh.
No, that's how you know you're aging and you're maturing.
When you get things for like a specific purpose, that's when you're old.
It's not on the floor, so you're good.
And then, Helen, her big pet peeve is like, we don't decorate. I'm very not into decorating, not because like I don't see the value in it, but for me it's like if I'm going to put something up, it needs to be really meaningful.
I know. There's a part of me that just wants to buy some random artwork and just put it up, because I think once it's up, you're going to leave it up.
Yeah, because I also don't care enough to take it down.
Yeah.
I'm that indifferent about my decorating. But when I go to like a nice hotel or someone's house that's really well decorated, I'm
love
like,
it.
this is
Yeah.
great. We should have this. Yeah.
So how would you guys describe your style now? Like your clothing choice, your fashion. How is that different between your 20s and your 30s?
I've had a difficult relationship with style and fashion my whole life. I've always appreciated people that dress well, but at the same time, I've never wanted to put in my own effort to achieve those looks either. But then when I am forced to, I like how I look. So I just, things never connect to a point where I do it every day and care every day, if that makes sense. But so I think my style has been very much the same throughout like both decades.
Are you like asking for help right now?
No.
Are you like, Helen, dress me?
My style in my 20s was a lot of Wong Fu t-shirts.
I mean, what are you wearing right now?
And then my style now in my 30s is a lot of Bopo Mofo t-shirts. Seriously, like I do just do a rotation of like Bopo Mofo t-shirts.
I don't think I've seen a non-labeled shirt on you in a long time.
5 years ago, he used to like circulate his like, you know, like short, like button down, like polka dotted t-shirt.
I used to like, I went through a phase in my 20s where when we went to Asia a lot, I would love shopping in Asia and getting stuff there because it was more unique, it was better fitted, and I felt American male style clothing was really boring. So I liked getting stuff overseas.
For me, I think I don't really have a good label for my style, but I definitely transitioned from this looks good to now this fits well, right? To me, you can wear all kinds of styles if that's your persona, but it's all about it fitting on you well, right? So when Phil talks about, you know, getting clothes in Asia, that was like one of the first times I got like a shirt that was more, you know, slim fit. And I was like, oh, this looks way better than my elbows and arms like swimming in this random shirt I'm buying from, you know, a department store.
Yeah.
And so now like I do tend to buy things that are a little more simple, more like about color and pattern, not like a bunch of logos all over it.
Yeah.
But it is more about the fit. So I end up going back to brands or stores that fit me well.
What stores are those and brands?
So I would say the mix is probably Banana Republic, J. Crew, Nordstrom.
Those fit you well? I feel like those are made for like white people.
I would say Banana Republic actually does fit me well.
Oh, okay.
J.
Yeah, I've
Crew,
heard that for Asian women as well, Banana Republic.
yeah, J. Crew depends on the actual item.
Yeah.
And then Nordstrom or Bloomingdale's has the variety of brands, right? So you just find, you know, which one looks interesting and you try it on. And
It's just always like mixed messaging to me because it's like the extra slim fit things at like department stores are like the things that like fit me just fine. I'm like, I don't think I'm extra slim fit, but I guess to like the typical American shopping at Macy's
yeah.
or whatever. Anyways, like I don't like shopping. That's the thing. I hate shopping. So that's why I just whatever I have, I just kind of go with. And also, I think what it is in high school and college, I actually used to care a lot about fashion. Like I used to have like sneakers that would match my hat, that would match my shirt, all that stuff. And then afterwards, I stopped caring because I realized when you're not going to school, people aren't seeing you every day. So what's the like? There's no one to impress. Exactly. And now if I'm like, you know, here at Wong Fu or Bopo Mofo, it's like I think I'm like a functional reformed person now, right? So it's like I only need to just close myself to like go to work, and that's about it. Yeah. Sorry.
Helen's face is like, eh.
And I feel like a lot of people like are known for like a lot of the most famous people like are known for like just like their basic look. You know, like just Bruce Springsteen, just like white t-shirt and jeans. Like I'm going for the classic look.
yeah, totally.
Okay, actually, I went through a phase where I was like, I'm willing to pay for a personal shopper because I just really hate going out and trying to find stuff. And when I can't find it, it's so frustrating because like I'll be at a mall or whatever, and I'm like, I have money I want to spend. Can someone make something that I want to purchase or that fits me right? And when you can't find it, it's really frustrating. So
I mean, and there's so many of these companies now that will do like personal styling, right?
true.
And that I think is exactly
maybe I'll
what it
try
is.
that. Maybe
Yeah.
I'll try that.
You'll get exposed to some new styles that maybe you never thought about.
You know what it is, though? I think Tim brought up a good point because I don't know if it's like an Asian thing, but growing up, I never thought about going to a tailor. It's like, oh, whatever I buy from the store should fit me exactly the way it should. But then a lot of people now, when I buy things, I'm like, oh, I could just get it fitted. Spend a little bit extra money to get it tailored, but I think it's like a concept that we don't really do a lot. Like I only get like my dresses happen if it's like a special occasion, but on a day-to-day, I don't really spend that extra money. But because I think fit is really important, but we don't want to take that extra step sometimes.
I never knew people even did that.
Yeah.
Because I didn't even know tailors existed like for a very long time because I was like, wait, that's the thing people do?
Here's a question for Phil. When was the first time you got a suit tailored?
It's probably like in my 20s, like late 20s probably. Suits are different. Suits like that I understood very early on that you have to get it, you know, adjusted and stuff because like it's made in a way to be like tailored. But then when I heard about people like fixing their jeans and stuff,
Yeah,
or like
yeah.
It's like your day-to-day
Yeah, I was
clothes.
like, wait, you guys are really care about your jeans. Yeah.
Actually, that's true. I think I've only tailored a dress, like a bridesmaid's dress, once. Oh, and also when we went to a gala or something.
But that's
I
also
tailored that.
maybe that it also means that you've been able to find clothes that fit you. Because I've had like past girlfriends that were like, I've had to tailor stuff my whole life because like my legs are too short for whatever. Or
I see.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
that's true. Have you ladies had to tailor anything?
I probably should have, and I just don't. Just to be honest.
yeah.
It's a Luke.
I actually started tailoring just like recently because I'm like, I bought these jeans online. I didn't fit. I was like, oh, I wasn't just give it away. I was like, wait, I want to be wasting money.
Yeah.
Actually, I'm gonna spend a little more so I could wear this because my concept is I understand like a gown or a suit, but if something I'm wearing every single day, I'll spend the extra effort
That
and
could
money.
arguably be more important. Yeah.
That's true.
What were your financial goals in your 20s versus what are your financial goals now?
I think my 20s, it was about feeling financially independent from my family and, you know, getting your first job and making sure you paid off any of your debts, loans, whatever. In my 30s, I think now I have a better sense of my income and my finances, that it's about obviously saving, also investing, and also having, you know, fun things to spend your money on, you know? So, you know, for me, like taking trips, I always want to take at least one big trip with my friends or family a year. So making sure that I, you know, save up in the right way, that I can carve that out and take that trip without kind of worrying about, oh, am I gonna have to come back and eat bread out of a dumpster, you know, for example.
Because you did that in your 20s.
Well, you know, Ralph's and Vaughn's throw the day out bread. It's not so bad. It's just a legality, guys. I'm kidding, by the way.
It's a suggestion.
Yeah, suggested expiration date.
It's so funny. Like, I think because you had a stable job, you could make those plans in your 20s. But for me, like, it was just about survival. Like, I was like, I don't know when the next thing's coming along. And it was really, I hate this word, but like, it really was like the hustle of like, how can I make another buck? How can this piece of content or how can this product, how do we market this? How do we just make a little bit more money? And so it really was just about save, generate whatever way you could. Before I knew it, I was like, oh, I've generated a good amount and I can go do these things, right, comfortably, or like, oh, I don't have to worry as much. So I never had any kind of financial planning at all in my 20s. I didn't even get a credit card until after college. So like that was really dumb of me, like to build credit anyways. And then so now in my 30s, now that I have like, you know, whatever my savings and nest egg and things like that, now I'm just thinking about, oh my God, I have to save even more because family is going to cost money, kids are going to cost money. So now I feel like there's the ceiling of like what I need to have and build up is like, I can't even see what that is because I don't know how much kids cost. I assume a lot, you know? So I just need to save and generate as much as I can to get that house, get the kids, all this stuff. It's very nerve-wracking, actually.
Maybe a little bit of a tangent, but one thing I would encourage is that in your 20s, like, don't just think about only saving. You should be thinking about living life because in your 30s, some of your friends will be married or maybe have kids, and it changes some of the opportunities of trips you could take together or things that you might do together, right? So, I mean, I think I was lucky that a lot of my friends were able to do, even if it was simple, still things outside the norm where we weren't, you know, again, like worried about eating tomorrow's dinner. We could still take some fun trips or do some fun things. But I think when I look back, I'm glad I did some of the things in my 20s, and I wish I had done some more things in my 20s, right? So balancing those finances early on and just paying attention to it, I think can really open up some doors.
What's that saying where it's like live or invest like for a day?
Invest for a better day tomorrow.
No. I was like something like for the days and then something for the week and then something for like your 10 years or something. Have you heard that?
So some like bank logo? Your ass.
Plan in decades, think in years, work in months, live in days.
When you think about savings for the long-term future, that's like you investing in your retirement. For you and thinking about saving for tomorrow, that is like putting money in the bank, right? And then for you, quote unquote, saving for today, it's like, what is the thing you want to like spend money on? It might be buying something. It might be moving to a new place. It might be taking a trip, right? So it is important, I think, be responsible, learn of what saving money means. And at the same time, my encouragement is like, don't lose sight of you should enjoy your life throughout your 20s and your 30s.
Yeah.
How would you describe your relationship with your parents when you were in your 20s versus now?
Oh, damn.
Ooh, deep question. I think in my 20s, that's when I started to feel like an adult, and also that my parents respected me as an adult. And now in my 30s, My parents are starting to advance in age a little bit. And so there's a kind of a caretaker component that's starting to come into my mentality. So, I mean, they're totally healthy. They live on their own. But I now do have that mindset and the means to actually support my parents versus how I maybe didn't before. And I didn't think about that at all in my 20s. It was more like you starting to view me as your peer and maybe not so much as your kid. And there's that transition. I mean, it's gradual, but it goes all the way up into your 30s.
Mm-hmm.
I think I don't have that, and I think it's because I basically have lived away from home ever since 17, essentially. Like when I left for college, I never went back, basically. And so I feel like even though in my 20s and I was like starting to earn money or like stability was coming, and even now 30s, like my parents still see me as like not an equal, like, or that they still have to like worry about me and everything. That might be a little bit from me being like the youngest, the only boy also. But I think it's also maybe because they're not around me enough to see that I'm a functioning adult, you know?
Right.
And so that caretaker role, which I think maybe that's where it might start from, when they have to rely on you to be taken care of. Like, I don't have that. And very grateful for my sister, who is still up in the Bay. Like, she has that a lot more. I'm just like the son that's just out there doing stuff that they are worried about and don't know, you know? So, but I think the biggest thing that shifted in my 20s and now in my 30s, like, is when you start to humanize your parents. I think when it first clicked with me when I like reached like my late 20s, and it dawned on me that, oh, this is the age that my parents like left, Taiwan, or like when they immigrated here. And that like blew my mind when I was like, oh, like I look at my life now and I try to imagine it just leaving, and not knowing anyone, not knowing a language, and trying to start a new life somewhere else. I just had this totally different respect and understanding of what they had gone through. And that definitely came in the 20s. That wasn't there before.
So in terms of mental health, how did you take care of yourself in your 20s, and how does that look different now in your 30s?
I don't think I ever took care of my mental health.
Ooh, getting real here.
Wait, I thought you did.
How?
I thought you told me you
Through
went
your Wong Fu shorts.
Oh,
therapy.
that was that mental health?
But was that in your 20s or was that in your 30s?
That was in my 30s. That was definitely my 30s. And that was more like just emotion. I guess that. I guess I'm like so like not in tune with what it is that I don't even like, when it's even happening. I don't even recognize it. I can't even call a spade a spade. I never thought of it that way, but I guess like the Wong Fu shorts were an outlet, and because people responded positively to it and encouraged it, I guess that was a way for me to feel healthy, in a sense that, oh, me expressing these thoughts and these feelings, these challenges is good. So while I never in my 20s never like sat down with anyone or like did any exercises, I guess it definitely did come through Wong Fu and the shorts we made. So very grateful for that opportunity, and also the people watching to guide me through my 20s as I was figuring myself out, for sure. Yeah.
But I think in addition to that, it's like also like self-care, right?
Yeah.
How are you taking care of both your mental health, your self-care, like stress, anxiety,
when I think
things
of
you
mental
go
health,
through?
that's what I think of. And so in that sense, I've never dealt with before. But then I also don't mind it.
So maybe Phil needs to take care of his mental health. No, but I don't know, but we had this conversation before for like a couple of years ago. I think you're also really big on fitness. And I think that's something you actually picked up more so in your late 20s than you did early 20s.
That's physical health, not mental health.
Oh, really? I
guess it's
People do it for different
yeah,
reasons.
it's all that's true.
That's probably self-care then.
Yeah, and I'm the same way. I got more into my physical fitness in my late 20s and my early 30s than before. Because it wasn't just about physical fitness. It was actually another way or another outlet for me to actually de-stress when I was having a really tough day. It was a way to transmit my energy somewhere else versus keeping anxiety or stress or pressure on myself if I was just sitting in a room thinking about it alone. So to build on this, in my 20s, I was already very social, but I started to talk more about my deep feelings with my friends. And I think that continued on, as I reached and grew into my 30s. And it's not something I would necessarily talk about during my college years. So interestingly, in my 30s, I've become more comfortable with alone time, which is definitely something I never thought about when I was younger.
All right, so the last question for lifestyle is, how have the topics of your conversations changed between your 20s and your 30s? What did you guys talk about in your 20s? You guys were friends in your 20s. What did you guys talk about?
I would say I definitely remember having a lot more tons of conversations about why doesn't she like me?
Yeah. Confirmed.
Yeah. I want her to like me. Yeah. That's like, it was, I said this in like my commencement speech for UCSC. It's like, there's only two things people talk about in their 20s. It's relationships and love and work. That's it. Like love and work. That's it. That's all you care about. Finding some type of direction and stability and purpose in those two departments. And I think in your 30s, it shifts into family and ambition, maybe, or like, you know, career purpose, I guess.
I agree with that. And I would also add, I think in your 20s, in your younger 20s, it's more about like you and maybe your friends are your own little universe. And everything that happens in that universe is the most important thing. And over time, the universe expands where you care about things in your community, things in the world.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why people in their 30s, like, I hate to say it, like you start reading and watching the news a lot more, right? You start paying attention to these issues that in your 20s, maybe you had no idea what was going on.
Or didn't care.
About. Yeah. So I think, you know, your conversations will definitely shift in that way as well.
I definitely didn't talk as much about politics.
Yeah.
Granted, our political situation was, actually, that's the thing. Like, I always question, like, is it just really bad right now because we're in our 30s, or is it actually bad? You know, right? Or in our 20s, was the government and was our political, environment actually any better, or did we just not care? Right?
It's a good point.
But you ask like older people, and they're like, no, this is the worst. You know?
I wonder if it's also a generational thing, because I feel like a lot of like, maybe I'm just assuming, but Gen Z is very vocal about current day issues. I wonder if it's also like maybe back then it wasn't like priority for us.
Well, I think that comes along with access to information.
Right, true. Very true.
And so when technology and like now there's social media that is so prevalent, is people growing up with social media versus us that like learn social media, right? So now these Gen Zers, they have never known a time when they couldn't find out about everything, right? And if anything, they can't even avoid it. For us, I think we could still avoid news, right? But these days you can't.
Yeah. I mean, it's all about time, right? So, you know, let's say during our early 20s, social media was just becoming a thing, but it was much more about like, you're my friend, let me share a picture with you. Yeah. And also like, keep in mind, like iPhones had just come out and they were very primary, right? Fast forward to today, you could be out with your friends and literally go to the bathroom and read about the news. Right?
That's true.
And so that access is so easy that you can keep up with anything at any point in time versus we would have to dedicate, okay, I'm at home, I'm going to sit here and watch the news for an hour or read the news. Well, I sound like an old man. Read the news
on a website
or a magazine or something, right?
Yeah.
So I think that access is definitely a big game changer.
But I think definitely relationships were like all we really like truly cared about the most. I think when you're in your 20s, you just want to find love. You want to be loved, right?
Chasing romance.
Yeah. And you're always like comparing other people's relationships and then also other people's jobs. So it's just I feel like the 20s is like just high school just elevated a little bit with like high school, but now people have money and there's more at stake. And then ideally when you get to your 30s, it's a little bit less of that, and now you're more sure of yourself. And so now that you're more sure of yourself and where you're going, you have more room to care about politics or your own ambitions or your family now, right? When it was much more selfish in your 20s. Who loves me and how much am I making, right?
Yeah. I mean, I'll maybe close this off by saying that as your topics change within your conversations, that actually keeps friends really close together along the way, or you end up finding newer friends that match your conversation interest or style, right? And there's most of the time no love lost. It's just a natural progression in time.
Right.
Yeah, ABG might not have been able to exist when you all were both in your early 20s.
That's true.
Wait, why?
Because
we might have had different.
You wouldn't have wanted to talk about these things.
No, because we would have all been talking about boys and work.
Also,
would you agree? Like, is that where y'all were at when in your 20s versus 30s? Was what we're saying like a pretty similar assessment?
Yeah, I would say definitely like topically about like relationships and dating, and then about work, right? And I think a lot of the focus, it's ego driven. It's about identity. Who am I, and like what is helping me? What am I achieving? And then I think in your 30s, it does go more outer, And then even if you are still talking about your job or your relationships, it's about what you can give or and what you contribute, and more of like a legacy, I guess, than it is about like what you're getting. I would definitely agree with that.
Yeah, I agree too. I think it was always like the hot or not, or who's like, that type of conversation. And it was, I think also it depends on what extracurriculars you did too. So my world was very much consumed by volleyball. And so a lot of my activities and things like that would be volleyball related stuff, and then just talking about like relationships and like I think there was a lot of
gossip.
People like to gossip and feel like they were part of something, and that's why people gossiped, so they can form their cliques and feel like they were part of something.
Yeah, honestly, the topic of boys have not really changed for me. It's
very true.
It's been pretty consistent.
Dude, Mel's like most asked question is, which of our friends do you think I would date?
Wait, no, it's not. Not what I date. It's who Janet date.
Don't deflect on me.
No, but I think for me, like when you guys were talking, maybe it also depends on what career or like career path you're on, because I feel like I was actually pretty ambitious after college. I was chasing this versus like I think finding that out, but I think reality set in for me as I entered my late 20s, and self-confidence really came through. There's a lot of accepting that happens in your 20s or towards like the later half. Like I think before I was kind of like didn't understand like, oh, you don't like I had this phase where I'm like, oh, you don't get chasing a passion is like the only thing that you should be doing. I didn't understand like, oh, people value other things. So like the idea of empathy and understanding came stronger towards the later half of my 20s.
Well, I think something that people in their 20s struggle a lot with is obviously figuring out what their career is, if they're going to stay in there for a long period of time. So now that you are both in your mid 30s, one, are you passionate about your job? Are you happy with your job that you currently have?
I am passionate about my job in terms of I work in healthcare essentially, and I like the fact that the product that my team and I work on is something that's going to benefit people. As a marketer, what's challenging for me is that I'm also in an industry that's very regulated. So sometimes my creativity is curbed on a day-to-day basis. So it's kind of that natural tension of I think I'm in a good position where I'm doing something that's, again, impactful, and there's maybe a part of me that isn't always satisfied. So to be honest, yeah, I do think about, could I take the skill sets I have in a very established career and maybe like slightly pivot them to something different? And I still appreciate that I think I've made some good accomplishments in my career that I feel very confident with what I've done.
Is this a career that you've had since you were in your right after college?
No, actually, I had a very interesting path. I graduated with a science degree and was a very isolated chemist/biologist for a couple years.
Isolated.
And
You work in a lab.
Literally, I would go into my office, put on my protective gear, and go to the lab for like 8 hours a day.
How many years was it like? How many years was it like this?
About 2 years.
It's so funny that you're like, oh, like my path was very unique and different. And like to someone in the arts and the creative arts, I'm like, oh, so you're in science for the last 10, like, it's like you were in science. It's true. What's the variability there? But of course, there's.
No, I think, I mean, the big difference is I think for people who are in the lab and who are scientists, they appreciate the long journey to eventually get that satisfaction of like, my experiment worked, right? I've discovered something.
Right.
And for me, I'm like, this is so slow. I have no one to talk to. I hate this.
Yeah.
So very quickly after that, I realized like, there's no way I could stay in this type of career.
So in your 20s, you were more in that career for the stability part of it. And then you start understanding like, what is it that you really want? And now you're this like stage performer marketing type guy, right? That's like dancing around the stage.
No, I mean, what I do like about, my career is that I do, again, get a chance to understand and touch the science.
Yeah.
But it is a very dynamic, group-oriented, driving the business type of career now, right? And that's very different than where I was before.
Interesting.
And I think for that, it was not a natural progression. It was self-realization. If I didn't take certain steps to pivot myself, I could have been trapped in that for 10 to 15 years, right?
I think, obviously my path was a little different, but I will say that right after graduating, when I saw so many of my friends get internships or go into like nice 9-to-5 jobs or even just go to grad school, I felt very, very inadequate. And this was, keep in mind, this was like in the 2000s, right? So even the concept of like having a job in some type of digital social media was like completely non-existent. Yeah. So I felt even more like, what am I doing? And it's funny, like, I think one of the best things that I realized, and this applies to both, doesn't matter what gender you are. It's like, I think when you come out of your 20s, like you think that you don't realize actually how long 10 years is, like, and that a lot of things can happen in that time. And I remember, it clicked one day where I was like, oh, 5 years passed since, we were out of college. And I had friends that did those jobs that, that I envied or that I thought were like so great. And 5 years passed like that, and they hated their jobs, right? And they were already looking, similar to like what you did, right? And it's like, oh, like you could spend 5 years, half a decade in this one job and still have half a decade left to do something completely different, right? And so there's actually a lot of time to figure things out and to experience different things. And it's, like you're never like locked in. So for me, I feel very fortunate that, I was able to find something early on, and obviously we evolved with the times, but yeah, I'm pretty satisfied with the job now, with the work. That satisfaction didn't come like easily. I definitely wasn't like, oh, I'm in the arts, I'm proud of what I do. I think most people in creative fields always second guess themselves if they're doing the right thing. But I always tell people like, hey, like even if you do have a creative side of you and you don't go into it as your job, like you can always keep it as a hobby, make it something that makes your dating profile interesting, something like it doesn't, not everyone has to make their side gig their main gig.
You guys both share really great advice. Do you have any additional things you would share to maybe your younger self or other people listening in terms of lifestyle and career?
I think, the biggest thing I would say is like, don't be afraid to take risks. There's definitely some things that I think about where maybe I could have taken the risk earlier or just tried something completely new and not worry about the repercussions. Because I think when you get to a certain point, you will decide, hey, is this for me? And time doesn't come back, right? You can't purchase time. So when you're young and maybe you do have a little bit of a safety net from maybe your family being able to support you, or you do have a career that you save some money with, don't be afraid to kind of tap into things that really make you happy.
I would say that a key ingredient of success is time. It's not just how smart you are, how connected you are, what internships or whatever. Like you could have all those things lined up, and sometimes like it just takes time for a plant to grow. You can't rush that factor. So allow yourself to have that time to develop yourself in your career, and listen and be mindful of when you're seeing, if we're using the tree analogy, you're seeing, oh, this branch is starting to grow, like where's that, how big and how strong is that branch going to be in a little bit more time, right? And so never feel like you got to know where you're going right away or within a year or whatever. Like one of the most annoying things is like when I hear, even just like social media or digital creators, they're like, oh, I've been doing YouTube for like a year and I'm still not I'm like, dude, it takes time, and I think that's in any, I think what it is like when you're in like grad school or you're going to be a doctor or you're in corporate America, that timeline is very clear for you of what you're supposed to be hitting. But I think when you don't have that structure, sometimes like you're never sure if you're actually on the right schedule. So you start doubting if you're going fast enough or not. Right. With med school, it's like, oh, I'm going to be here for 8 years. So I can't rush that. So there's almost like some comfort knowing.
Of course,
right?
Stability. There's some structure. Yes. Great advice. Such sage advice from our older men.
Older men.
Hi everyone, we wanted to share with you a new podcast called The Bonnet Chronicles. You may know Tammy Roman from season 2 of The Real World on MTV or Basketball Wives, or as an actress and comedian. Tammy is also the creator of the Bonnet Chronicles account on Instagram that features Tell It Like It Is rants, and has gained a following that includes Halle Berry, Taraji Henson, Snoop Dogg, Winnie Harlow, Tiffany Haddish, and Pink.
Now, Tammy is bringing everything fans have come to expect from Instagram to the Bonnet Chronicles podcast by Starburns Audio. Tammy and her husband, Reggie Youngblood, keep it all the way real as they discuss love, sex, relationships, hot topics, and anything else they want to get into. Kind of like how we do with our podcast. And Tammy's daughters sometimes stop by to give a younger generation's perspective too.
Nothing is off limits in the Bonnet Chronicles, and you won't want to miss out on a single episode. Subscribe to the Bonnet Chronicles podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Anchor, or wherever you listen to podcasts. New episodes out every Wednesday. All All right, thank you so much for joining us in our conversation today, Phil and Tim. This is super fun, interesting, and definitely a good follow-up to the episode 58 where we talked to Jason and Mike, two guys in their mid-20s. Y'all definitely offered a good mature perspective of lifestyle and career changes, and we'll continue this conversation in part 2 where we talk about love and dating.
Yeah, it's been fun, and we can't wait to get into part 2.
We also have some partnerships that we're happy to share with all of our listeners. You can look for the links and codes in our show notes, and also head to our website at asianbossgirl.com/partners.
You can also find us on all the podcasting platforms. We are Asian Boss Girl. Follow us on Spotify, subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts, and leave us a rating and review. And if you'd like to support us through monthly donations, you can do so at anchor.fm/AsianBossGirl/support.
We're also very active on social. Our handle is at Asian Boss Girl. If you resonated with today's topic, screen cap the podcast, tag us, and we can reshare on our IG story. Also find us on YouTube, where we have started posting some videos. Subscribe at Asian Boss Girl.
And thank you to our super talented editor, Michelle, for working all her magic on our episodes, including this one. Catch you on the next episode.
Bye. See you soon.